switch it off. So, welcome everyone. Wonderful to see such a fantastic mix of people here. Please do keep introducing yourselves in the chat. Very happy you can all be with us for our first AI for Good masterclass here with Jacek from Tech to the Rescue. And I'm going to quickly share my screen and hope you can all see what I'm sharing.
Nick, sorry, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure how that happened. Okay, so welcome again, everybody, to our first AI for Good masterclass with Jacek from Tech to the Rescue, where it's awesome to have so many of you with us. And today's going to be all about helping us to make sense of the world of AI and its implications for the impact sector. So first of all, I'm going to give you a short introduction and framing of our program. After that, we're going to do a quick interactive pulse check with you all. Where are you standing in terms of AI and the social impact space? Then going to hear from our speaker, Jacek, and have the chance for you to ask him lots of questions. For anyone who is new to Changemaker Exchange, I'm seeing some new names and faces in this call. Just one paragraph on us. We support a global community of 1,500 young social entrepreneurs and activists all around the world, working on everything from human trafficking in Southeast Asia to restoring coral reefs in the Pacific, to innovating the German education system, to working with refugee entrepreneurs in Congo. Everything you can imagine, and we try and give them everything they need to fulfill their missions. Of course, the question of how and if AI can also support them with that has come up many times, hence what brings us together today. And I think when we look back on today from the future, we're going to realize that we are right now in the very early days of this AI wave. And I think in the experience, many of us, of looking at this technology and seeing its massive potential and opportunity for people in this sector to both scale our impact and reduce the burden. And just to give you a tiny snippet of some of the potential we're seeing from youth-led examples, we're seeing things like Fercado, which is an AI-powered shopping assistant for sustainable shopping to try to make secondhand the new default. So for the thrifters in the room, you can click on a photo of any product that you're searching for online and it will give you the secondhand version of that. Or another one, Signverse, using AI avatars to serve deaf communities across Africa to make any classroom service in the country accessible using African Sign Language. Or Chile, using generative AI to supercharge activist campaigns. So you're an activist, you want to either create your own campaign on the East Africa crude oil pipeline, for example, to try and target some of the funders of that. It will do all this for you in a hyper-personalized and very engaging way, making climate activism very accessible from your smartphone. Or Satoms from North America, using AI in a super smart way with molecular discovery to tackle the clean water crisis. And we're also seeing it used to stop illegal logging in the Amazon, wildfires, tackling them. So there's this wonderful promise that we're going to explore today. And at the same time, I think many of us in this sector are left with that feeling in our stomachs that as a society we might be doing this wrong. And for many of us, this has also created a real tension and ethical dilemma, like Homer Simpson in the picture here with the devil and the angel on his shoulder. So many of us, and I'm sure many of you in the call, are worried about the huge environmental impact, about the biases, about the centralization of power, the data privacy. We're in really uncharted and uncertain territory here. And our research on how young change makers both use and perceive AI really makes this tension concrete. You can see more of that at the link in the chat. And it shows that young change makers are really tech savvy digital natives. Multiple research shows that they are using, Gen Z in particular, using AI at super high levels. And over 80% believe in the benefits, but at the same time, hold those serious ethical or environmental concerns. 65% use it regularly, but only 25% actually trust it. Obviously, this technology is moving super fast, and in our view, the social impact sector can't get left behind. We have a crucial and urgent role to play in helping to shape its development and also helping to support each other to navigate this tension. And that's our aim with our AI initiative, ChangemakerXchange.AI. It's to help both our own community and target group of young change makers both to navigate when to use it, when not to use it, and to support those who are putting it at the heart of their impact models. We got a lot of interest in this program, so decided to open up some elements, including this series of masterclasses. It's all in collaboration with EY and SAP, two super vision and value aligned partners. So we're very grateful to them for the support and for really putting AI for good at the core of their work. And this masterclass series will really bring in some rock stars from the whole field. After today, and I'll introduce Jacek very shortly, we'll then have Odin looking at very, very practical next steps to get your organization ready. We'll then be joined by Paula Malat on AI ethics, super important topic. We'll have Sasha Lucioni, a real world leading voice on the environmental footprint and impact of AI. And then Zamina Ahmad looking at inclusivity and bias in AI. You can register at the link in the chat to all of these via the website. Also today, and just gone live now, we're excited to share, we're launching a whole new set of resources. You can see them at the hub, including little guides on how to make these tough decisions about AI, how to navigate the environmental costs, which are the more environmentally friendly options, etc. We also have a whole load of case studies of young change makers putting AI at the core of their work that you can check out, and then mini guides on the actual practical skills for putting all this into action, from strategy and governance to how to find the right tools. Again, see the link in the chat for all of that. Excited to get it kicked off. And finally, yes, we have also today we're releasing, and particularly focused on generative AI, our mindful use policy and manifesto. So how do we navigate those dilemmas, and how do we, as a small organization, without a big AI policy or team, how do we put these tools into action to serve us better, but mindfully, ethically, and intentionally? So I'm going to now stop my share, and we're going to do a little interactive quiz to see where you in the room are at with your own AI use and feelings around it. We're using a Zoom integration called Slido that you're going to see pop up in your chat right now. My colleague Miriam is going to open it, and what we would ask that you do is hit open when you see this pop up in the chat. If you can't see it, we will also share a direct link to the online version of Slido, but you should be seeing the option to join it within the Zoom. Miriam, did you start that within the Zoom platform?
Trying
Okay.
to, but it's of course not cooperating. So
Okay, so we will join via the link in the chat. I'm copying it there again. You have the link and the joining code if necessary. And we're going to ask you 3 to 4 different questions on this Slido. First one, which label best describes your organization? Is it nonprofit, fund of philanthropy, corporate, academia? And when you have submitted your answer, you'll be able to see everyone else in the room as well. Okay, interesting. We have about a third philanthropic and funders. We have also about a third nonprofit. Corporate business just jumped ahead of nonprofit there, but very similar, 27%, other 10%, and academia 4%. Thanks. Awesome to see a really multi-sector group in the room today. And if we go to the next question. We'd love to know how you rate your organization's AI readiness. So number 1 would be curious, maybe, but clueless. Maybe a few people using the classic LLMs, but not really embedded. Number 10 would be fully integrated across everything you're doing as an organization, all processes. Okay, and you can also see the score there. We have an average almost right on 5. We have 4.7. The majority of people at 3 out of 10. Interesting. Okay, you're in the right place. I hope we have a few people even at 10 out of 10. Some on 8, 7, but the majority, I would say, between 2 and 6 out of 10. Thank you for sharing that. And then we'll go to the last 2 questions. One, given that most people are on, I guess, the beginning of their AI journeys, what is the biggest barrier for you or your organization to adopting AI? You can send that as one word. It's going to come up like a word cloud. Okay. You can see the bigger words there are the ones which a lot of people have voted for. So we see here time, capacity, cost, lack of knowledge, also skills, also some of those ethical and moral questions. Good to see them there also. No clue where to start. Join the next masterclass also, where that will be supporting on that. Risk, competency, programming. Okay, we're also going to touch on some of those things across the next couple of masterclasses. Thank you very much. A real range of that. For anyone just joining, we are doing an interactive quiz. I will again drop the Slido into the chat so you can also join. You're very welcome. And then the final question, what is your biggest fear or concern about AI? And again, enter a word, one word. Okay, and lots of things coming up here. Data security, ethics, environmental impacts, also linked ecological, people losing jobs, losing creativity, data privacy, hype, competition. Okay, so we can also see, and we want to really acknowledge all of these fears that there are in the room and in general in the nonprofit space around AI. And I think this sets the stage perfectly. I hope we can see from the work of the changemakers and probably many use cases you've seen that the promise and potential is real, and also that you can see from these poll results that the fears are real. We didn't want to kick off our masterclass series with the risks or the perils, which I think can paralyze us all a little. And then, as I mentioned before, in our future sessions, we're going to dive really deeply into the people highlighting the need for guardrails, environment, bias, ethics. But today, I think we're here to understand the sheer scale of the opportunity, why it's worth engaging with. So we're really thrilled and lucky to have Jacek Siadkowski with us today. I think a brilliant fit to help us make sense of all this. Please feel free to drop in questions for Jacek anytime. You can see now the Slido is open in the side of your Zoom. You have this Q&A tab here where you can put in your question, and you can also use the thumbs up to upvote other questions that you most want to see answered. Jacek, been in Tech for Good for 13 years, hopefully a lucky 13. And through Tech to the Rescue has helped build more than 1,000 tech projects for nonprofits, including over 100 AI initiatives, and is also reorienting his own org to be completely AI native. So yeah, Jacek, the floor is yours. The mic is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Nick, and hello, everyone. Nick, thank you for this excellent introduction, and most of all, for everything that you do to help people understand what AI is and how to work with this technology. I hope today I will be able to bring a little bit of light to this picture. However, I don't promise anything because it's huge. So let me start from asking you guys, have you ever heard the term singularity? I don't see you, so please raise your imaginary hand. But let me explain for those who haven't. Singularity is this hypothetical moment in the humanity history in which technology has grown so much that humanity undergoes a dramatic and irreversible change. So when I try to imagine singularity in the past, I always had those visions of like me waking up in the morning and suddenly robots are flying outside of my window. And I'm feelings person as well. So quite often I ask myself a question: how would I feel in a specific situation? And singularity always seemed to feel to me like I'm both excited because robots are flying outside of my window, but also scared because I don't know what those robots will do. And looking at how humanity feels right now, and you as well, obviously this brings a question like, are we in singularity right now? Is this already a moment which will define or redefine the whole future for humanity? And I think we are. And in the next couple of slides, I want to tell you why I think so. And then I hope to share with you some of my thoughts on what we can do with this, about this, especially in the context of building new change-making organizations and changing the world for the better place. So why I think so? I talk to a lot of social impact people and change makers, and 90% of the conversations are about fearing the data security or about hallucinations. And all of these are legitimate worries, but people miss the fact that it's blocking them for actual implementation in many cases. There are so many excellent organizations that haven't even picked a chat platform for themselves, while in the last 18 months, AI got 1,000 times cheaper while getting 10 times better. So what this means, you could see those two charts in the bottom. The chart on the left shows how the prices of generating 1 million tokens of intelligence changed over time, but the scale is actually logarithmic, so it's way steeper than it looks like. And the yellow round that I marked says that the cost of GPT-4 level intelligence fell 1,000 times in the last year and a half. It means that pretty good companion just got 1,000 times more affordable for organization. In other words, from every dollar, you would be able to generate 1,000 times more intelligence for your work. But it's not only about the cost, right? Because it's also getting better and better, and it will continue getting better. So the second chart shows the MMLU benchmark. It's a group of 1,500 questions sourced in a group of experts in all fields of science and politics and sociology and stuff. Yeah, and this set of questions forces LLMs to not answer questions based on the training data, but actually generalize knowledge and provide new sorts of insights that come from reasoning, not from the past, the data that were fed before. So what you see here is that we made a big progress since 2022, of course, but you can also see on the far right that new models predictably now are better than human experts. And it's not the end of this line, right? So it's only gonna get better and better, which means pretty much that in the next 3 years, we would have, models, beings that are basically more intelligent than us, that would be able to generate scientific discoveries and would help us a lot in many different fields of life. But being able to answer to test questions is one thing, and second thing that AIs are really good at is basically generating code. And I'm in the tech for good space for the last 13 years. Yeah, and I'm in this space because I believe technology could help scale up such a wonderful work of so many change makers around the world. But until now, the problem always was, I cannot afford technology. But it's changing right now, right? Because AIs could create technology themselves. And for experienced software developers, it means that now they can build software 5 to 50 times faster than before, which for Tech to the Rescue means that we are able to pull off much bigger projects for nonprofits in the same amount of time or with less resources than before. But it also means that for people who never coded or who don't understand technology, now suddenly they can actually build something from scratch without the need to know Python, right? The hottest new programming language is English, and take it as a matter of fact, now the global pool of change makers who are able to build technology grew from maybe 1 million of people to maybe 1 billion of people. And this is absolutely amazing. And when you listen to people who actually build this technology, they claim something really interesting I wanted to tell you about. So they claim LLMs are not just a new fancy type of software. They say, and I think they are right, that LLMs and this large language models and the fact that machines could reason from words, it's a whole new platform. So we started from software developers writing code, right? And the code was executed and the computer was basically providing the answers. Then we went into machine learning era where we didn't write code. We trained the neural net to actually execute tasks. And this way AI could, for example, predict the flood. But now with LLMs, actually software is programmed by prompts, and LLM is a computer. This is profound because, first of all, this means that most of the software that we see on the market will be rewritten again in the future for the AI native states and for LLMs to talk to each other and execute tasks. And that's pretty amazing because if they can get creative, it means that they could also create software. But the fact that LLMs will be able, or are able already to create a pretty good software, and it will get only better and better, means that we have a very short time until AI is inventing new science. And actually, people who work in this space already claim that AI is solving unresolved mathematical problems. So when AIs are inventing new science that humans are not able to invent, then it means that the world is changing forever. So this all sounds profound to me, but a little bit theoretical. But it got very practical for me a few weeks ago. So let me tell you a story of where I come from. And I come from a small farming village close to Warsaw in Poland. My parents own something like 7 hectares of land. They grow potatoes, cabbage, carrots, and other stuff. But they're getting older and older, and they're close to retirement. So I'm wondering, okay, what do we do with the land after they decide to quit the job? And in the last few months, I've been thinking about this. And one idea, crazy idea that came to my mind was, well, maybe I could build a data center on the land. And what you see on the slide is actually this piece of land. So I was like, why not? Maybe I can try. So I basically used the LLM to create a whole investment plan for the data center close to Warsaw in my home village. And I'm not engineering this space. So I didn't know how to start, but LLMs helped me a lot. And actually, after basically a few days, I already had ready-made designs with all the parameters and with the whole logistical procedure I should go through to actually build it. But data centers can only run in places where they have access to electricity. So the very first task that any investor needs to do is to secure energy for the data center. So what I did is I wrote a formal paper to the Polish energy distribution company asking if they could deliver 20 megawatts of energy for the data center that I'm going to build. Data center being, sustainable, ecological as much as possible, pretty nice design, but still without energy it wouldn't take off. And I was expecting that the answer would take them a year or something, but they called me after 2 days and they said something that shocked me. And they said that, you know what, this is an actually quite interesting project and we would love to support you. But not many people know that one of the tech giants already booked all of the energy surplus around Warsaw for the next 20 years. This means that I could only get 1 megawatt, which is too less to build anything. But this also means that if you zoom out, it means that most likely all of the net new energy that will be created in the world in the next 10 to 20 years would go to train and execute AIs. This means that the chart I've shown you will get steeper and steeper. And in a very few years, we're going to see wonders that are hard to imagine. And that obviously sounds both amazing, but it also sounds frightening. And I'm torn by those two feelings, to be honest. And I try to use my brain to make sense out of it. But after a few months of making a hard attempt to actually do it, I believe the only strategy that makes sense in my case, and this is also the strategy that I recommend to my friends and close ones, is whenever the problem gets too complicated to actually make intellectual sense out of it, just follow the curiosity. Just follow the question that sounds the most interesting and try to chase the answer to that question, because then you could actually have fun on the way and you could focus on something that you see rather than making sense out of the global complexity of energy, power, geopolitics, and so on. And for me, the question that rises my attention the most or makes my heart beat fastest is a question of how do we use AI to give birth to a whole new generation of nonprofits. And this could be, legacy nonprofits that would transform, or a new nonprofits that we would start that would use this technology to the extent that, will unlock new levels of social impact. And my brain is a little bit analytical. So I started the process of deconstructing this question into first principles. So I asked questions of, okay, how social impact is created? What are the basic components? What AI is good at? And I found a pretty interesting idea that I wanted to share with you. So the next part of the presentation will be more on, okay, making sense out of it and finding mental models that are useful when thinking about this, rather than using technology in some specific way, because also technology is changing so fast that I believe it's actually impossible to give you any practical advice at the moment, because the advice might be irrelevant in 6 months from now. So let's focus on the mental models and how we might use this technology in the long term to unlock new levels of impact. So when you think about social impact and how it's created, actually many social impact activities break down into helping humans behave in a different way, this forming a habit, and habit kind of eliminating the problem that was created by humans in the first place. Right? So you change the behavior, then you create a habit, and then the problem is eliminated. When you think about how to change the people's behaviors, actually what's important is to give people a message or intervention that will move them strong enough so that they consider actually changing the behavior. You have to send this message in the right time, in the moment in which they are potentially most adaptive to this message. And then obviously you need to recreate the wheel so that it happens on an ongoing basis. And actually AI is amazing in those two things. So first of all, AI enables us to send extremely personalized messages to people. So you could easily imagine that whatever you want to do, you want to convince politicians to change the policy, you want to convince young people to spend less time in front of the screen, or you want to do anything else, now you could send much more personalized and effective message, improving the quality of what you do, right? And it doesn't have to be about the message. It could be about the whole intervention that could be much deeper than just a simple text message, right? Second thing that AI is amazing at is actually predicting the best moment to do something. And AIs are used for 25 years to predict when the machine will break. Yeah, and it could be easily used to predict, okay, when this specific person might be most likely to read my message or engage in this social activity. And of course, this technology allows us to automate stuff. So any intervention that we run could be cheaper than ever before. So if you combine those three things, I believe you have an amazing mixture of things that are possible, right? Because you don't only scale the intervention to more people, but you also make the intervention much more effective by making the specific unit of this intervention more effective and deploying it in the moment when it's crucially needed, regardless of if the human being is around or not. So this is the theory, but in practice, it looks like this. This is one of the projects that we supported in the last 2 years, and it's a story of a small place in Ecuador, which is called Tarangua. So Ecuador is a country which is the second worst country in Latin America, where most children suffer from malnutrition. It's a big problem because if there is malnutrition, then the children get sick more often. They, drop out of school. Basically, there is a cascade of negative consequences in their lives. But why this problem exists? Well, because there is lack of knowledge about how to, provide high-quality nutrition, but also in those remote places like Tarangua, there are not many, products. This is like mountains. It's very remote. It takes, a long time to go to the market, and basically it's hard. So one could say, why don't these women install the app that already provides, nutritional advice? It's possible. There are like hundreds of apps like this. Well, because two things. First of all, those apps recommend, products that are not available. And second of all, because they operate in a language that is not spoken in those mountains, right? So there is one special person, Andrea, who used to be a government worker, who was trying to fix this problem from the government side. After a few years, she got frustrated because none of the government's policies actually worked. And she decided to start a nonprofit, and she approached Tech to the Rescue with an idea that they could create a chatbot, WhatsApp chatbot, that could provide women and children with personalized, highly localized advice on how to create most nutritious meals out of the products that are available in the village, that are available on the market. So they created a very simple app that operates in a language that is spoken in those mountains. And for the last 3 months, the app has been used like crazy by mothers because they treat this as their own personal assistant that makes their children healthy. And that's not the story of a gigantic nonprofit that was started 30 years ago and has God knows how many resources. And it's not a story of a young programmer that built an app. It's a story of Andrea, 42-year-old person who used to work for the government, who used AI to create something deeply personalized, deployed when needed, but also highly cost effective. But that's one sort of benefits that are there. Second sorts of benefits are the benefits for the people who want to start something new, but they would never be able to do it. With tools like Lovable, now you could create a social enterprise out of nowhere in days, or maybe even in hours. And we already see that there is a whole new generation of change makers who basically start building things out of the frustration. It gets picked up, and then they basically build a non-profit and social enterprises out of it. But what's really cool about those social enterprises is because they operate in an AI native way, there's almost no admin zone, no admin layer. Like basically many things are streamlined to bring that impact directly to people. The example of such is a Brazilian social enterprise called Plink. Plink was started by Sabrine. She's a growth marketer. She used to be a growth marketer. She used to work for tech companies in Sao Paulo. She was happy there, but one day she heard the story of her neighbor being killed by her partner, who turned out to be a violent criminal, a person who had a story of engaging in criminal behavior with both women and men. And no one knew about it because they met on Tinder a few months before, and basically the guy kept being a threat and no one knew about it. So Sabrina's mother called her and she was crying, and she told Sabrine that she must do something about it. she must solve the problem, because actually 1/3 of Brazilian women experience some form of violence in the past 12 months. 1/3 of Brazilian women older than 16 experience violence at least once a year. Yeah, that's crazy. So Sabrine started to think about how to solve this problem. She found a government databases of people engaging in criminal behavior. She found that it is possible to actually ask the government about it, but it takes weeks if you do it on a regular basis. And no one would wait weeks until they have the Tinder date, right? So Sabrine opened Lovable, one of those vibe coding tools. She vibe coded in a few days an app that connects to those public records of violent behaviors in people. And she basically created a simple app where you basically register. You have a name and surname and a phone number of a person you're gonna date with, and you just check if there is any history behind them when it comes to their criminal behavior. As simple as that, but the app went viral on TikTok very fast. And after 6 weeks, she already had 40,000 paying users who check information about who they're gonna meet on a regular basis. And she actually made a working business model that fast. And now the team is working on extending the intervention into, they're gonna have a panic button app, they're gonna have a service for employers, and they're gonna make it much, much more mainstream very, very soon. And she still cannot code at all. So that's pretty amazing. And we see that happening over and over again. 2 years ago, we started AI for Changemakers program, which is the program in which we invited 100 amazing organizations to work with us on redefining who they could be with AI. And since that time, we deployed over 90 different projects for those organizations, AI projects. We have over 500 companies from all over the world that want to build those solutions on a pro bono basis because it's so cool. For the last 2 years, we worked directly with those organizations, trying to understand, okay, what makes a very successful case and what are the specific characteristics of an organization that has the largest potential to deploy AI effectively. And the results are quite clear and simple, and I want to tell you about what they are. So the biggest difference that we see in organizations that can use AI effectively and those who just use AI to write emails is the approach to using this technology in the organization. So the metaphor I want to use for that is a metaphor of cameras that were invented in like early 1900. So when people invented the movie camera, the first way to use them was actually to record the theater plays, right? You have the theater play, you record the whole play, and then suddenly you have the movie. This is how most of the people and organizations use AI right now. They take the legacy process that is operated by humans, they just sprinkle AI on top of that just to write a better email or just to do something very simple with AI to improve the process just by a little bit, often creating the slope. And that's it. And we call it AI sprinkled approach to using AI. You take legacy process, you sprinkle it with AI, and then you have something that is maybe 3 to 5% faster. But think about this. If you think about this, right now, after 100 years, people use cameras in a different way, right? So when they record the next Avengers, they don't record a theater play. And they have a whole movie set that doesn't look like real location. People wear these different strange suits that they then augment with technology to optimize the final result for the best possible extent. And I believe that in order to unlock potential of this technology for nonprofits, you need to do exactly that. You need to reinvent the legacy process to make the maximum use of this abundance of intelligence, an agency that you have available. And I call this AI native way of doing things. So take any process in your organization right now in your hand. Yeah, this could be storytelling, this could be fundraising, this could be your intervention, this could be building relationships with your funders. Think about a sprinkled way to do it, right? Just use ChatGPT on top of that, and then think about, okay, if I redesign the process for the unlimited intelligence that I have available, how do I do it? And you would have a completely different results. The example that I use sometimes is how Tech to the Rescue does storytelling. So the storytelling could be done in AI sprinkled way. So we just source the data about the beneficiaries we serve. And we use AI to write better stories that we want to record. Then we ask the agency to record the movie. Maybe we use AI in post-production, and then we distribute the stuff, right? We use the AI, but it still takes 3 months to record 3 videos at its best, and it's still very costly. But you could also take AI, and you could automatically source information about your beneficiaries, right? AI could even call them if you wanted and ask them about the details of their experience. Then AI would enrich this information by information that it could find in public databases online. It would automatically craft the story, and it would create a different website for every different beneficiary that you serve, so that every item of impact that you create is being told. It's possible already, and I actually built something like this for Tech to the Rescue in a few hours. So when you think about it, the AI native thing could be an AI native process when you just recreate a process that you used to have in AI native way. If organization goes for big enough number of processes, so you could use this in the intervention, in fundraising, in marketing, and in somewhere else, then suddenly those things compound, because those layers of AI could talk to each other and improve each other. And suddenly you get organization that is AI-driven and AI-native. And if we have enough organizations that are AI-native, then we could imagine AI-native sector, because we could have organization that does criminal screening, organization that uses AI to provide resocialization, and AI native organization that does post violence trauma healing. And those three systems could talk to each other and optimize the resources in the whole ecosystem. That's the exciting future I'm looking for. So you could ask, all right, so how the organization of the future would look like to be able to execute these AI native approaches. So I believe that any organization of the future would have two layers. First layer would be a human layer. I very much see humans in the picture, but in a different role than right now. It's not about humans doing admin work and spending 60-70% of their time moving things from one place to other place. I see humans doing mostly two things. First would be humans orchestrating AIs, making sure that AIs behave in the right way, responsibly, providing guidance, making sure that the data are not leaked. So basically, conducting the AI orchestra that organization uses, but also humans doing this very important human-to-human interaction work, which in many cases is absolutely crucial to actually move the needle. So humans will do human beautiful stuff, and the stuff I call adaptive interventions in which it's not enough to send a text message, interventions in which you actually have to convince someone and create an environment in which this change could happen. But AIs, on the other hand, would be deployed on the many levels of organization, where basically the processes are getting optimized by AI itself. So you'd have a swarm of different mini tools that do specific parts of your intervention, that coordinate with each other, and that improve the intervention on an ongoing basis. Then an organization would have three different types of people on board. We would have tech people in organizations, people who understand how AI works and who could orchestrate AIs, mostly working on making sure that this connection is happening and it's there is certain level of observability, responsibility, data security, and stuff. You would have soft tech people who actually are able to deploy new agent, who are able to facilitate this interaction between AIs and real life. And you would have a non-tech people who basically are responsible for executing this human-to-human part of an intervention. And those organizations of the future, and that makes me excited, would get better and better every hour. If we find a way for AI to learn about what doesn't work in the intervention, very quickly we could get to the scenario in which this intervention being, iteratively optimized, but not every 3 months, but maybe every week, every day, or maybe every hour. And I believe that the last piece of this is that those organizations will be actually designed for collaboration. It's not like we would get into the silos because now suddenly AI can do work for us, but because of how we would need to design the protocol for humans and AIs to collaborate, I believe it will be much more natural for nonprofits to collaborate with other organizations and other AIs. It won't be easy though. It's not like a simple idea would change how the organization behaves. This is why I think we all need to get good in a specific process. A process that starts from imagining of how our organization could look like. So basically having a dream of, okay, we could do this in a different way. Then we would need to redesign processes, or maybe I should say reimagine processes, because it's not about iterative redesign. It's about rethinking how AIs could help us in the best possible extent. It will be about training staff and ourselves on what's possible and how to align our organization around this. It would be around building AI policy and updating AI policy on an ongoing basis. And it would be about very frequent deployments of this technology into real life. Obviously, that's not a linear process. This process would repeat. This process would go in circles, and we all need to learn how to operate this process to take most of this technology for social impact. One of the questions I often ask myself is, okay, like, is this actually possible to transform the legacy organization into AI native organization, or do you have to build from scratch? And honestly, I don't know yet. I think both of them are needed. And even if you think about Tech to the Rescue that is going on this AI native journey, we are actually doing both. We both transform our organization from inside, but we also build a new version of Tech to the Rescue on the side to see which approaches have more pros and cons and how to finally combine this into one beautiful piece. So that's big, and I hope this vision is somehow interesting for you and attractive. And because I promised you some mental models to use, I actually want to do so. So I think it's important to think about your behavior in this singularity situation in a specific way. And I have a few pieces of advice for myself and for you as well. I think it's crucial to not get distracted by short-term hiccups. AI isn't perfect yet, but it will never be less capable than today. And we could talk forever about things like, okay, how much it hallucinates, but those problems will be solved one day. And I think we should have a picture of what's possible in 3 years from now and design for that, rather than get stuck in today. This is why I recommend you to not design for 2026. I recommend you to think about 2028 when you design how you want to work with AI. Also, it's crucially important to deploy AI when it actually matters. You could always use ChatGPT for writing emails, but the best impact would be created in the areas where you could improve personalization of the intervention, and you would deploy this at scale. Think about those opportunities. They are there. And when I think about Tech to the Rescue, the biggest behavior that we change is, okay, companies thinking we have available people, we would do a project for a nonprofit rather for a commercial client. How do we use AI to have more of that? Then learning loops. The biggest promise of AI, I believe, is that in the future, AI will be able to learn how to improve stuff. So when you have the intervention and it runs on data and AI, and it's deployed in a responsible way, you could actually ask AI how to improve certain elements of the intervention and run parallel tests of what we could change. And AIs in a short future will be able to actually perform it. So once you deploy AI learning loop in your key part of the intervention, your organization would be able to grow the impact infinitely. So that's really exciting, and you should be looking for those learning loops actively. Also, I think it makes sense to optimize for speed and responsibility. Organizations right now could iterate products on a crazy speed. I started a small team at Tech to the Rescue called the AI Native Studio that was supposed to build infrastructure for a nonprofit sector in AI. And we were able to ship 2 products in 2 weeks because we optimized the process for testing quickly with the users, building first, not overthinking in the first stage, basically trying to build something that is showable to people and improving this thing based on the feedback from users. Of course, speed is amazing in this specific sense because you could improve your product 50 times in a year rather than 2 times in a year. But also you have to remember, obviously, that speed requires responsibility too. And last but not least, because it's difficult to understand what to invest to, which technology to choose. Okay, which stack do I build with? Do I invest in agents? Do I invest in something else? I think this question should always come back to the experience of beneficiaries. And we should ask ourselves a question, okay, what our beneficiaries need the most and what they will always need. And we shouldn't focus that much on specific tools or technologies. We should focus on bringing them more of that thing. And technology would follow. And technology would change so fast that the things that are trendy and cool right now might not exist in 12 months from now. Or, one of those big labs could basically, kill any startup by launching a new feature in the chat, right? So we should basically focus on what matters for the beneficiaries. It's not easy, it's hard, and it's hard for me too. But the world is changing so fast that we cannot comprehend it. It will stay like this. If we stopped technology progress today, it would still take us up to 10 years to actually understand all of the implications. It's not possible. We won't stop it. It will continue. So we need to find a way to behave in this situation in a healthy way. And the healthy way, I believe, is to follow the curiosity, be mindful of the risks, talk about the risks, but don't get stuck in the hiccups. Let's look for the ways we could create value for people. And unfortunately or fortunately, we need to learn how to get comfortable within the singularity that is happening. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jacek, for this kind of, mind blowing input, chewing over it a lot in my own mind. And I'm sure many of you also are getting both, some uncomfortable feelings, some excited feelings, some tensions, some thoughts on what can I immediately do? I didn't know I didn't need to know coding to build this stuff, etc., etc. So I'm sure there are a lot of thoughts and feelings in the room. I would love you. I'm going to kick off with a couple of questions, but while I'm doing that, I would love you to add your own questions for Jacek. You can see the link in the chat to the Slido, and you can use the thumbs up icon to upvote the questions you want to see answered the most. Okay, thanks again, Jacek. I'd love to kick off with a question, maybe a selfish or biased one from my end at Changemaker Exchange. Why is this AI wave particularly an opportunity for young change makers, young people leading social change initiatives?
Yeah, great question. I think there are two specific reasons that make me look at younger generation than me with in a better position than myself. First of all, I believe, as I said, that all of the technology stack that the world runs on will be rewritten. And young people have the biggest opportunity to rewrite this infrastructure that the world runs on. But also, young people have better ability to reimagine stuff. Once you get older and you function in an organization for 10 plus years, you already get used to the old ways of doing things, the legacy ways. And for organizations that function in a legacy way, it will be very difficult to reimagine even how they should change stuff. And young people would find it much, much more easy to rethink how the world could work. And they will have much better capacity, speed, and ability to actually execute on those ideas. And there's one very specific metaphor anecdote that I used recently. I launched this AI native studio. I have a team of 4 hackers in the team, and they are supposed to build a new types of products for nonprofits. But all of those people have young children, including me, that are attending nursery. So basically, we exist for 6 weeks, and 4 of those 6 weeks we spent being sick because our children bring viruses from schools. I didn't have that problem before, so I guess even practically young people have more space, freedom, creativity to invent new stuff.
Amazing. Amen to that. Thank you very much. Yes, also something we suspected as well. I'm going to start going to the audience questions now. Thanks so much for adding them already. We have some really cool ones there. I think the first one, super interesting question on if building a social enterprise in hours or days using AI can be successful. Is that the right approach, or do you not think that the soul of slow, natural process, the process of building something, working with beneficiaries, etc., soulfully is still the key? What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, so I guess there are 2 parts of this question, right? First one, like, should we keep the soul of working with beneficiaries? Yes, always. That's the most important part, not only of building a nonprofit, but also building a company, right? Like, if you don't understand your clients, your beneficiaries, you're basically wasting everyone's time. But then the second part of this question, is it better to build fast or slow? You could ask yourself a question. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to spend 12 months to build something, or do you prefer to spend 6 weeks to build something similar? I guess there are different answers. I wouldn't answer for everyone. I know that some people find joy in going slow, and not everyone has to build a $1 billion startup. So I guess my point is that it's possible, and the organizations that move faster, they would implement faster progress in their intervention, which means the likelihood that they will have something that works after a certain period is basically higher. So it's possible. You don't have to. You could still run a community organization if you want. You don't have to use technology at all. But if you want to build something global, something useful, and something that could use technology to change people's behaviors, then AI is the opportunity.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I think also just a reminder, and I think to add on to what Jacek's saying, it's not always, and we saw a very interesting point in the chat also of, is this just curing the symptom versus going deep to the root of the problem? And is that many of these technical solutions can also be complementary to ongoing deeper efforts to better understand community, to look at the really roots of the issue, and it's not like suggesting this comes in as the replacement for all of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point, right? Like, I believe the organization of the future have 2 layers: the human layer, and that's exactly about being close to communities, executing these human interventions, but also you could have a swarm of AI workers that do the things that could be streamlined for the benefit of everyone.
Yes, awesome. Thank you for the clarity. Next question, another good one, another thorny one, I guess. How can AI systems built from privileged worldviews, this was the top voted question now, genuinely understand and respond to the needs of marginalized or diverse communities to create solutions? Also wanna, it's asked anonymously, but wanna point the person asking that to our final masterclass on inclusivity and bias in AI, which will go right to the heart of that question, but would love your thoughts on it too, Jacek.
Yeah, great question. And I wonder about this a lot. And I believe this question has a technical part of the answer and a kind of moral part of the answer. So the technical part is probably a little bit easier because we pretty much understand why LLMs behave in a specific way. And I would say there are 3 components of that. First one, what's the data that you train the model on, right? And right now, the most popular models are basically trained on everything that is available. And of course, that models would behave like the average internet citizen. So of course, they would behave much like global north societies, right? But you could curate better data sets, and we partner with Hugging Face. You would have a person from Hugging Face in a masterclass too. They put a lot of intent and work on making sure that it's easy to understand on what type of data the models were trained on, and making less mainstream data sets available. So you could do that, right? Second part of the training process, or the model building process, is the post training. So basically, or not post training, but the human feedback to the model. So the models could be awarded for behaving in a specific way, or punished for behaving in the other way. So you could set up the whole process of making sure that the models would be rewarded for promoting equality. And third thing, which I discovered recently, and I believe it's very, very interesting, one of the big labs published a paper saying that sometimes it's actually as good as fine-tune the model to create a very solid system prompt that would force LLM to act according to your values. So OpenAI published this document, open source. It's called Model Spec. It's a very long document that describes precisely how they expect their models to behave. And what you could do quite quickly is you could basically rewrite this document and use this as a system prompt for every interaction that your organization has with LLMs. So you could force the LLM to not favor specific cultures. You could force LLM to not provide medical guidance. You could force LLM even to use the language that you want to use. And that's really powerful for nonprofits. Actually, one of the products that we built at Tech2Rescue Native Studio is exactly that. We help organizations build this system prompt themselves so that it reflects their values and ethical systems. So the summary is that you don't have to train your new model to actually have LLM behave like a global citizen, which is morally fair. But then the moral question is also important, and it's the question of how do we define equity? Should LLMs, equally represent, all of the cultures? How do we do it? For what specific use cases? I think these are profound questions that are very difficult to answer, and we should continue talking about it, and building bodies in which people are represented, and they could have a voice in those Silicon Valley rooms, right? So I won't solve it myself. We can solve it together. If you want, then let's try to talk about it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much. I want to also pick up on that kind of Silicon Valley empire of AI that's developing and more power, and that's something that we're definitely going to tackle, particularly in the November 27th masterclass, when talking more about smaller language models, locally developed AIs, and that's also led by Sasha from Hugging Face, the organization Jacek mentioned.
I actually forgot to mention, but it's really important. You should visit that masterclass if you are interested in the topic. Right now, more and more researchers prove that you could build a model that you could train yourself, really train yourself in a week, that behaves with 85% of quality of those, like off-the-shelf top quality models from the big labs. And this 85% of the model quality is more than enough for many use cases. So those small language models are really promising, and in the future, I believe we would use them as apps. You would want to create the intervention for the minority group in Ecuador, and you would choose the model that was trained on Ecuadorian data. So that's a strong trend, and let's keep blowing into that trend so it gets more and more traction.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And connected to that, and the next question, a bit more around resources and where to find tools. The question is specifically looking at where to find a list of AI tools or apps that can be useful for social rural development organizations. So maybe start with that if you can, and then maybe broaden that to say, yeah, what are the best tools collections out there? What particular resources would you recommend to people on the call?
Yeah, great question. I might not know about everything that exists, of course, but the tools that I would recommend the most right now is for people who look for the specific app they could use in a specific context, like off-the-shelf apps. I think there is a database that is called There is AI for that. And it's not a collection of social impact tools, but it's a collection of all tools that exist and people curated. So many tools that were built for the commercial purposes would be very useful for nonprofits too. So I recommend you to go there. And second thing, for people who are slightly more technical or have an appetite to actually explore slightly more technical side of things, it's actually Hugging Face. Hugging Face, which is the world's largest repository of models, apps, data sets, basically everything that exists in the AI space, and it's not proprietary. So if you want to build, let's say, image recognition app that would help people recognize rotten vegetable for people in the mountains of Latin America, probably Hugging Face has a model you could use off the shelf for that. After short fine-tuning, they have fine-tuning tools, and they have pretty good guides to let you understand how to work with this. Of course, in many cases, you would still need a company to build the first prototype of this because it's not available to everyone. But then I invite you to take to the rescue. We have 500 companies that want to build AI solutions with nonprofits. So it's there for you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jacek. And I hope that answers your question, Manu. Also, little plug for our own platform here. We just launched today, which has got lots of different aggregations of resources around different AI for goods for everything from governance, data to finding tools to data protection resources and more. Next question. Another deep one. How's your macroeconomic knowledge, Jacek? Ruben asking around the bubble, the AI bubble, and can big tech keep up as platforms are making a loss? Is this bubble gonna burst? Is this a dot-com bubble or a tulip bubble? Which type do you think?
I'm not a macroeconomic expert, and I'm far from understanding everything that you should take into consideration while making a call. So please take this as a disclaimer. If you ask me about my intuition, I would say the intuition is that it's a sort of industrial revolution bubble. There is a certain amount of hype, and because of that hype, a lot of money is going to organizations that would find it very hard to survive with such amount of debt. But also we have a few players that don't have to borrow money to build those capabilities, and I think they are safe. So if you ask me if OpenAI is going to survive, I'm not so sure. If you ask me if AWS and Google is going to survive, I think yes. So I wouldn't invest in OpenAI right now myself, but I would invest in Google and AWS. And I think in the long term, the revolution will prove to be real. I think there's a strong evidence that there is, a revenue already. And like I said, I think that the biggest holy grail that everyone is looking for is, this level of AI that can produce scientific discoveries. Once we have that, it's already like we're already past singularity. Right now, we're building that. So this is why I think we're in the middle of it.
Okay, good. I hope that answers your question, Ruben. Like, look at the fundamentals there, but no investment advice, of course. I'm going to take maybe 2 more questions. Going to remind people that you can upvote questions in the Slido. I just dropped the link in the chat again because I'm seeing lots of new questions there. I want to ask one really interesting one I'm seeing here around, your advice there on solving today's problem while designing the AI tool for 2028. Seems challenging, overwhelming. Where to start with that?
Yeah, great question. I guess if it was easy, the book Innovator's Dilemma wouldn't exist. My personal take that I'm not sure if it's the best strategy, and maybe every organization should have their own strategy. But my strategy is to, secure the present. If you have intervention that works, just make sure that it could keep running, but also dedicate a solid amount of resources into an exploration for the future. So what Tech to the Rescue does itself, just using the numbers, we have 30 people in the team. 25 people still run our AI enablement programs. And it's a program that helps organizations create AI strategy and build a prototype of AI-based tools. And the program that helps organizations deploy real live AI deployments. And 25 people still work in this program, and they try to create as much impact as possible. But we decided to focus the remaining 5 people from the team on building this new version of Tech to the Rescue and exploring of what this could mean for us. And so we both try to reinvent, and we both try to maintain the base while also investing in AI literacy in the team. That's us. We're technical, so maybe for us it's easier. Maybe for small organizations it will be more difficult. But without protecting time for innovation, the innovation won't happen, or it won't happen in your organization. So I strongly advise to put some time aside and have space for exploration. Not exploration like 3 hours per week, because it's never going to work, but finding people in the organization who are talented and could spend at least more than 50% of their time on this.
Yeah, great practical tip. Thank you, Jacek. I'm going to ask one more practical question, then wrap up with the deeper, more existential one. So, question in the Slido from Jax, and I know, and we just had an in-person meeting with one of our cohorts discussing this a lot. Such a volatile and unregulated area, how can particularly small nonprofits be sure the tools they're experimenting with are safe in terms of their data, longevity? I think a lot of people are really hesitant before they want to put things into OpenAI's data universe, for example. What are your thoughts on that?
3 thoughts. First thought is that I think this fear is overhyped. I think there are technical means to actually go around it, and people focus too much on the fear that there's nothing they could do to actually overcome this. So that's one thing. I would advise to go against the feeling and to try to use power of reason to find things that would secure your workflows. Second of all, the open source community in AI is growing like crazy, and you would find secure models, secure servers, secure infrastructure, secure workflows that you could put together, and they would work almost as good as OpenAI, fancy stuff for billions of dollars. Yeah. And third thought is, of course, it's not easy, and I recognize there is a need for 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 support. It's difficult to come up with this yourself, but there are so many technical people in the world that are experienced. Sometimes it's enough to ask them for advice. Tech to the Rescue offers organized advice. With us, you would deploy and you would have all of the support you need, but you don't have to use Tech to the Rescue for that. Just find friends who work in this space, ask them, see if they are actually interested, and I promise you that after a few weeks of exploration, you would find a stack that actually is secure, is private, is not that expensive as maybe one of those big lab tools, and so on and so on.
So we're gonna find ways, and yeah, and I think one piece of advice coming out of our own recent gathering was like start safe. Don't start doing things with personal data before you've got your own AI capabilities and readiness up to scratch. Yeah, but thank you for that. Both, I think, encouraging and practical advice. And then wrapping this up then with, I think, the role of humans in all of this. I think you touched on it a little in your own presentation about the importance of this, and not just a human in the loop, but a human conducting and orchestrating. And yeah, if AIs are already at expert level now, what is the role of human intuition and of the human in this revolution?
Short term or long term?
Both, but very quick, punchy answers.
Okay. Long term, I have no idea. I think no one has. We're gonna find out. Recently, I heard a speech from George Hinton, the Nobel Prize laureate for inventing, transformers, the technology behind the LLMs. He said that finally he feels a breath of optimism because he understood that AI, which is far more powerful than humans, could love us, humans, like mother loves its children. Which is weird, but it's an anecdote that shows that actually no one knows, right? We need to find our way there and improvise and find out. In the short term, I think before AIs are super strong, we are necessary in the picture for sure, technically, because someone needs to oversight them and someone needs to make sense out of technology. Yeah, on one hand, but also on the other hand, I don't believe that social impact would be created by technology itself. I always thought technology is just a complement to a proven social intervention on the ground, and we still need human for that. And I think we would need humans for that forever.
Thank you, Jacek. I think that is a beautiful point to end on, and that we will, yeah, we hope always need humans at the core of all of our work. We're going to wrap it up on that point. I'd love to just remind you again, particularly those who felt this tension or felt some dilemmas, some things in your head going through this session, to also join for our other masterclasses. Next one, a super practical one. The 3 following that, really diving into some of those difficult, thorny questions, including on the environmental impact, on ethics, and on bias. And with that, I'd love to just, if you all go to gallery view, just to have a look at each other. We were so many people in the call, we couldn't really interact. If you can, put your cameras on. Nice to see some more familiar faces from around. Hi, Vanya. Hi, Naz. Hi, Mariam. And would just wrap up if you can give a small Zoom reaction as to how you're feeling leaving this call, whether that's a thoughtful emoji, whether that's a scared emoji, whether that's a rocket emoji that you're ready to start putting your learning into practice. And with that, we will, okay, thank you. Lots of interesting feelings here. Miriam with the scream face, some fires and some celebrations. So thank you very much all for taking the time. Really enjoyed having you with us, and hopefully see you at the upcoming masterclasses. And thanks again, Jacek. Thanks, Miriam, for the hosting.
See you guys on the change-making journey.